Ilhan Omar walked into the hearing room ready to dismantle Speaker Mike Johnson, completely unaware that he had spent the entire night preparing a devastating trap that would force her to face the very people she thought she had left behind. Some people did something. That was how Representative Ilhan Omar had described September 11th in a speech at a banquet in California in March of 2019. 26 minutes ago, the son of one of those people had walked into this hearing room wearing a T-shirt. The T-shirt had her exact words printed on the front in white letters on a black background. Underneath the words was a name, Robert Frank Haros. The date underneath the name read September 11th, 2001. Across the witness table, Speaker Mike Johnson of Louisiana looked at her over the yellow legal pad in front of him. His voice, when he spoke, was the voice of a constitutional lawyer who had spent 20 years arguing in front of judges who had read the brief. Congresswoman, I'm going to ask you one question, about one phrase, about one day. Hit that like button, subscribe, because in the next 43 minutes, you're going to watch a speaker from Shreveport, Louisiana, ask America's most controversial congresswoman to explain 4 words to the son of a man who died in the South Tower at 917A. Messieurs, on September 11th, 2001. Let's go back 26 minutes. You don't speak for my country. Ilhan Omar was 4 minutes into her opening remarks. She wore a navy blazer over a white blouse. Her hijab was pinned with a small silver pin shaped like the state of Minnesota. The pin caught the C-SPAN light from 12 feet away. The hearing was titled, Foreign Influence in U.S. Federal Programs and Member Conduct. It had been on the Joint Committee schedule for 6 weeks. Omar had been invited as a former Foreign Affairs Committee member. She had reviewed the witness list on her flight from Minneapolis the night before. There were no names on it that worried her. The Speaker of the House, sitting at the lower bench with a yellow legal pad and nothing else, looked to her unprepared. She continued, with respect to the Speaker, and I do mean respect because I respect anyone who has reached the second highest position in the United States government, I find it concerning that the man who now sits in the chair once held by Tip O'Neill, by Henry Clay, by Sam Rayburn, is a man who has spent 2 decades of his legal career arguing that women should not have rights over their own bodies, that gay Americans should not have full citizenship, and that immigrants like me should be questioned about our loyalty before we are extended the basic dignity of being heard. The Democratic side of the Joint Committee smiled. A staffer in the second row gave a small thumbs up. Omar was not finished. And I would also note, Mr. Speaker, that this hearing about so-called foreign influence is itself a form of foreign influence, because the people who orchestrated this hearing are not American voters. They are evangelical donors who fund your campaign, Christian nationalists who want to turn this country into a theocracy, the same people who in 2017 told you to call my faith, Islam, a dangerous religion. Mr. Speaker, you don't speak for my country, you speak for theirs. She sat back. What Omar did not know, what nobody in the hearing room knew except the man she had just insulted, was that the Speaker had spent the previous evening at his desk in the Capitol with 1 staff member, 3 printed pages from the House Oversight Committee record, and a thick manila folder of FEC filings he had not opened. A small leather-bound book was in his coat pocket. He had folded everything but the folder into a single sequence of handwritten notes on a yellow legal pad, 8.5 by 11, 2 pages written in pencil. The legal pad was now on the lower bench in front of him across the aisle. Speaker Mike Johnson, age 54, did not respond. He did not lift his pen. He did not raise his glasses. He did not adjust the microphone. He set the blue Bic ballpoint in his right hand down on the legal pad in one single motion. The pen rolled an inch. It stopped. 16 seconds passed. He opened the legal pad to the first page of handwritten notes. He picked up his reading glasses from the bench. He did not clean them. He put them on. He turned the microphone toward himself. Congresswoman, with all due respect, the voice was quiet, the kind a constitutional lawyer uses when he is about to walk a witness through a brief the witness has not read. I am not here today as the man who drafted the Marriage and Conscience Act in 2015. I am not here as the chairman of the House Subcommittee on the Constitution. I am not here as a Southern Baptist. I am here as the duly elected Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, and the constitutional question before this committee and before the 4 million Americans watching it is one question. A pause, eyes on the legal pad. Whether a member of this body who has lied to a federal court, lied to the IRS, lied to a national television audience about the location of millions of dollars of donor money, lied about September 11th in front of a Muslim audience in California, and sat on the Foreign Affairs Committee with top-secret security clearance for 4 years, while her own state was funneling tens of millions of dollars to a designated extremist organization. Whether such a member should continue to serve, eyes find Omar. That is the constitutional question, Congresswoman. It is not whether I speak for your country, it is whether you have ever, in your career, told the truth about anything that mattered. The hearing room was silent. And before we begin, for the record, since you mentioned my faith, I want to read you something from your own application to the state of Minnesota, filed under penalty of perjury. A beat, about a man named Ahmed. The reading glasses caught the light. The handwriting on page 1 of the legal pad was small and tight, the way a lawyer takes notes from a deposition. Congresswoman, in 2017, you signed a sworn application to the state of Minnesota. The application was a divorce filing under Minnesota law. The document was filed under penalty of perjury. You stated in writing that you had not had contact with Mr. Ahmed Nur Said Elmi since June of 2011. A pause. 6 years of no contact, Congresswoman. That is what you swore to the state of Minnesota under penalty of perjury. He turned the legal pad 90 degrees on the bench. Clipped to the upper left corner of page 2 was a photograph, 8 by 10, slightly faded. A paperclip held it in place. This is an Instagram photograph. It was posted in June of 2015. The account belongs to you. The handle was Hami. The location tag is London. He held the page up. The C-SPAN robotic camera found the photograph. The producer in the truck zoomed in. 12 million American screens watched the image fill their living rooms. A young woman in a hijab, smiling. A young man in a button-down shirt. The young woman's hand was on the young man's shoulder. You are standing next to a man, Congresswoman. The man's name is Ahmed Nur Said Elmi. Your hand is on his shoulder. You are smiling. The photograph is dated 4 years after you swore to a Minnesota court that you had not seen him since 2011. He set the page down. Now, Congresswoman, I have been a constitutional lawyer for 20 years. I have read tens of thousands of sworn statements, and I want to explain to the people watching this hearing what this means in plain English, not in legalese. Eyes on Omar. You signed a court document. You wrote in your own handwriting that you had not seen this man in 6 years. You then went to London. You took a photograph with him. You posted it on the internet. You forgot, or you didn't think anybody would look, that the internet keeps photographs forever. A pause. And then in 2019, you took the oath of office for the United States Congress. 2 months later, you were appointed to the House Foreign Affairs Committee. You received top-secret security clearance, which means the Federal Bureau of Investigation conducted a background check on you. You did not on that background check mention the perjury. You did not on that background check mention the photograph in London. You did not on that background check mention any of it. Pause. The Federal Bureau of Investigation does not let people lie to it on a background check, not without consequences. So either the FBI failed to discover in 2019 what every conservative blogger had already published in 2016, or you lied to the FBI as well. There is no third option, there rarely is. In the wings, Omar's communications director, a young woman named Imani Hassan, who had worked for Omar since 2019, had stopped texting. She was holding her phone screen down, the way people hold phones when they realize that whatever they were about to text is no longer the most urgent thing in the room. Omar's voice arrived with the kind of preparation she used on cable. Speaker Johnson, the allegations regarding my marriage have been litigated for years in conservative media. They are baseless. Mr. Elmi is not my brother. The state of Minnesota took no criminal action. The case is closed. Congresswoman, quiet, immovable. The state of Minnesota took no criminal action because the state of Minnesota's Campaign Finance Board concluded, and I am quoting them, not me, that you had filed joint federal tax returns in 2014 and 2015 with a man named Ahmed Hersi while you were legally married to a different man named Ahmed Nur Saeed Elmi. The board also concluded that you had improperly used campaign funds for personal travel to Estonia. The board ordered you to repay over $3,000 and pay a fine. A beat. That is not closed, Congresswoman. That is guilty by your own state's own agency, which has no Republican on it, run by Democratic appointees in a state Donald Trump has never won. Omar's right hand drifted to her hijab. She adjusted it. The motion was small. The cameras caught it. And I'm not asking you whether Mr. Elmi is your brother, Congresswoman. I am not a DNA expert. I have not seen the records. The Star Tribune in Minneapolis tried to get those records for 3 years, and you refused to provide them. Your own father, the only person who could have settled this question, was asked. He declined to be interviewed. Your sisters were asked. They declined. The records that could close this question in your favor exist somewhere in your possession. You have refused for 10 years to release them. Pause. I am asking you, Congresswoman, why a person who is innocent would refuse for 10 years to produce the documents that would prove their innocence to a hometown newspaper, to a state agency, to a federal committee, to the American people, to today, this hearing. Omar said nothing. The speaker turned the page of the legal pad. The handwriting on the next page was the same small, tight pencil. He did not read from it yet. Congresswoman, I want to be very precise about something, because you opened this hearing by suggesting I am a Christian nationalist who questions the loyalty of immigrants. The voice dropped, one register, not louder, quieter. The country didn't ask you to be black. The country didn't ask you to be Muslim. The country didn't ask you to be a refugee. The country didn't ask you for any of those things. Those things are not the question. A pause. The country asked you for the truth about the man in the photograph. You have refused to give it for 10 years. That is not bigotry against you, Congresswoman. That is consequences for you. There is a difference. The hearing room was silent, and the country today is allowed to ask the question one more time, with the photograph in front of the cameras, out loud. Hit that like button if you've ever wondered how a member of Congress could swear under penalty of perjury that she hadn't seen a man in 6 years, and then post a photograph with him on Instagram. Comment London 2015. If this is the first time you've heard a speaker explain the brother allegation in plain English on live television, subscribe, because the next bomb is about $2.78 million, and the man she was sleeping with while she was married to someone else. The legal pad turned to page 3. But the photograph in London, Congresswoman, isn't actually the worst betrayal of your career. The worst betrayal happened 4 years later, and the woman who paid the price for it is sitting in the second row of this hearing room right now, behind your left shoulder. The cameras had not yet found the second row. They would in 4 minutes. Right now, they stayed on Omar. Congresswoman, 843 days. A pause. From the moment a man named Tim Mynette's wife filed for divorce in August of 2019, alleging that her husband had told her he was, quote, in love with Representative Ilhan Omar, to the moment your campaign finally terminated its contract with Mr. Mynette's consulting firm in November of 2020. Quiet voice. 843 days, Congresswoman, during which Mr. Mynette's firm, a firm called the E Street Group, received $2.78 million from your campaign, from the small donors who believed your campaign was about money and politics, about the corrupt cancer. A beat. $2.78 million to your boyfriend's firm while he was married to another woman, while you were married to another man, while you both were lying to the press about whether the affair existed at all. The legal pad turned to page 4. The handwriting on this page was different, words from a court filing copied by hand. I have read the divorce filing, Congresswoman. Beth Mynette, the wife, she is a doctor. She is the medical director of the District of Columbia Department of Corrections. She filed her divorce papers on August 28, 2019. She wrote, and I am quoting the legal filing, not a tabloid, the legal filing under penalty of perjury, quote, defendant told the party's minor child, who was 11, that the reason for the separation was that he had developed feelings for another woman. Defendant has stated that he is in love with that woman, who is, on information and belief, Representative Ilhan Omar, end quote. Pause. That is a divorce filing, Congresswoman, sworn under oath by a doctor about her own husband telling her own one-year-old son that the reason Daddy was leaving was for you. The speaker did not look up from the legal pad. He turned slightly toward the back of the room. And Congresswoman, I would like to acknowledge, with the audience's indulgence, that Dr. Beth Minette is in this room today. She is sitting in the second row, behind your left shoulder. She drove up from Washington this morning. She did not RSVP. She did not tell anyone she was coming. She is not going to testify. She did not ask to. She told my office when she arrived this morning that she just wanted to be in the room when this question was asked. The cameras turned, found her. Beth Minette, early 50s, black blazer over a white blouse, hair pulled back. She was not crying, she was just sitting there. Her hands were folded in her lap, they were not moving. Beside her in the same row was a teenage boy, 17, maybe 18, blue button-down shirt, khakis. He was looking at the floor. The cameras had not noticed him until this moment. The Capitol Police log later confirmed Beth Minette had signed him in as a guest at 653 a.m. The name on the sign-in sheet was Noah Minette. Omar's eyes went to Beth Minette, stayed there, did not return to the speaker. Now, Congresswoman, while Dr. Minette was filing for divorce in August of 2019, while her one-year-old son was being told that Daddy was leaving for a woman named Ilhan, your campaign continued to write checks to Mr. Minette's firm. 146 checks over 15 months, $2.78 million. A pause. The money came from your small donors, the teachers, the nurses, the first responders, the kind of working-class Americans you stand in front of cameras and say you fight for. They believed they were funding your campaign. They were funding your boyfriend while he was, by his wife's own sworn statement, telling his one-year-old son that he had fallen in love with the woman whose campaign was paying him. This was the moment Ilhan Omar stood up. She pushed her chair back 2 inches. She set both hands on the desk in front of her. The cable news instinct woke up. The 8 years of viral clips woke up. The squad press conferences woke up. Her voice rose with the kind of moral conviction that had, for those 8 years, played extremely well on Instagram Live. Speaker Johnson, the Federal Election Commission found no legal wrongdoing in any of the payments my campaign made to E Street Group. Mr. Minette's firm provided legitimate services. The FEC reviewed the matter and closed it. As for my personal life, Mr. Speaker, I am the first black Muslim woman elected to the United States Congress. I have been the subject of more scrutiny, more harassment, more severe safety threats than any member of this body. The allegations about my marriage have been investigated by every conservative outlet on this planet for 10 years. They have produced 0 criminal charges, 0 indictments, 0 findings of fraud. Her finger jabbed once into the desk. What they have produced is a constant, racist, Islamophobic narrative that suggests a Somali Muslim woman who was elected by working-class voters in Minneapolis cannot possibly be telling the truth. And the fact that you, Mr. Speaker, are sitting here today opening this hearing with the words of a man you have never personally spoken to, Mr. Elmi, about a private family matter is itself the evidence of the bigotry that put me in this seat in the first place. I represent the future of this country. Mr. Speaker, you represent its past. I am not the one who needs to step down. The progressive press section started clapping, once, then twice. Then a producer in the back of the room, whose company had been paying for the privilege of running an Omar-friendly evening show for 6 straight years, stood up and clapped with both hands above his head. Someone said audibly, "Yes." 2 House Democrats on the panel nodded. The MSNBC reporter in the front row mouthed in real time, "That's the soundbite." 15 full seconds. The hearing room belonged to Omar. Across the bench, the speaker did not interrupt. He did not gesture. He did not move. The yellow legal pad sat squared in front of him. The pencil rested across page 4. When the applause faded, he spoke. The voice was not louder, it was not quieter, it was exactly the same. Congresswoman, you said one thing in that statement that I want to address. You said zero findings of fraud. A pause. The Minnesota Campaign Finance and Public Disclosure Board, which is a state agency run by appointees of the Democratic governor of Minnesota in a state Donald Trump has never won, found in 2019 that you had used campaign funds for personal expenses. That is, fraud. Congresswoman. By your own state. By Democratic appointees. The same board found that you had filed joint federal tax returns with a man you were not legally married to. That is also fraud. Congresswoman, federal tax fraud. By the way, federal tax fraud carries a prison term of up to 3 years per count. And finally, you said the FEC found no wrongdoing in the $2.78 million. That is technically correct. The FEC said the contracts were legal. What the FEC did not address, because it did not have to, is what those contracts represent in the eyes of your donors. $2.78 million of small donor money raised on the message that you would fight money in politics, paid to your boyfriend's firm during the period of an undisclosed extramarital relationship that ended both of your prior marriages. You may not have committed a crime, Congresswoman, but you absolutely committed a betrayal. And the people you betrayed are sitting at home right now, watching this hearing, wondering whether their $25 donation went to a campaign or to a date. The hearing room was silent. The speaker did not stop there. He turned the legal pad to page 5. The handwriting on this page was lighter, as if written quickly. Congresswoman, one more thing. You raised it, so I will address it. Pause. You said you are the first black Muslim woman elected to Congress. That is true. It is a meaningful first. The country should be proud of that first. Quieter now. What the country should not be proud of is the second thing that comes after that first, which is that the first black Muslim woman elected to Congress used her campaign donor base to pay her boyfriend $2.78 million while she was married to another man, while he was married to another woman, while his wife, who is sitting in the second row right now, Dr. Beth Minette, was at home explaining to her one-year-old son why daddy was leaving. A long pause. You did not break the glass ceiling for Muslim women in Congress, Congresswoman. You broke the floor underneath Dr. Minette's son, and the country today is allowed to remember the difference. The cameras held on Beth Minette. Beth Minette was looking at the back of Omar's head. Her hands had not moved from her lap. Beside her, Noah Minette, 17 years old, blue button-down, khakis, had lifted his head. He was looking at the back of Omar's head, too. Comment. 1 year old. If you have ever in your life heard a Speaker of the House confront a sitting Congresswoman with the divorce filing of the woman whose marriage she ended, subscribe, because the next bomb is the one America has been waiting 6 years to hear. Delivered properly, 4 words about one day to a man whose father died in the South Tower at 9:17 a.m. The speaker turned the legal pad to page 6. The handwriting on page 6 was different, slower. Each letter pressed harder into the paper. Congresswoman, March 23, 2019. You delivered a speech at a banquet hosted by the Council on American Islamic Relations in Woodland Hills, California. The audience was approximately 500 people. The speech was recorded. It is available online. Anyone watching this hearing can watch it tonight. Quiet voice. Slow. In that speech, Congresswoman, you said the following sentence, and I am going to quote you directly. You said, quote, "CARE was founded after September 11th because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberties." End quote. He looked up just once. Some people did something. Those were the words you chose, Congresswoman, to describe September 11th in front of a Muslim audience 6 months after you took the oath of office for the United States Congress. A pause. 2,977 Americans died on September 11th. 2001. Congresswoman. 343 of them were firefighters. 23 of them were New York police officers. 37 of them were Port Authority police officers. The rest were teachers, bond traders, janitors, window washers, a man who delivered the mail to the 88th floor of the South Tower for 14 years, a pregnant woman whose husband was waiting for her at home in Brooklyn. Pause. They were not some people, Congresswoman. They had names, they had faces, they had families. They had funeral services. 2,977 of them. And the people who took their lives, the people you described as those who did something, they had names too. They had a name for what they did. They called it violent extremism. They named the country they wanted to bring to the ground. They named it America. They were not some people who did something. They were 19 named hijackers in a named operation against a named target on a named date. They committed the largest mass tragedy on American soil in our history. And you described it, Congresswoman, in the language of a misplaced umbrella. The hearing room was silent. The Atlantic reporter in the third row had stopped pretending to take notes he was just watching. Now, Congresswoman, the people who were left behind by those 2,977 dead Americans, the spouses, the children, the grandchildren, they are still alive. Many of them are still angry. Some of them have been waiting 6 years for someone on a federal microphone to ask you what you meant by those 4 words. The speaker turned slightly toward the back of the room. One of them is in this hearing room today. He is sitting in the third row from the back, on the audience left aisle. He drove up from Wall Township, New Jersey this morning. He arrived at 6:15 a.m. The Capitol Police did not know he was coming. He brought his father's photograph. He brought a T-shirt. The cameras turned. In the third row from the back, on the audience left, a man stood up. He was 58 years old. Construction supervisor, gray at the temples. He wore a black T-shirt. The white letters on the front of the T-shirt spelled out in printed block capitals, "Some people did something" by Ilhan Omar, March 23, 19. Underneath the words, in smaller letters, was a name, Robert Frank Haros. Underneath the name was a date, September 11, 2001. He was holding an 8x10 photograph. The chairman of the Joint Committee, a Republican from Texas who had been told about this man at 6:21 a.m., nodded. The chair recognizes Mr. Haros. He walked to the witness microphone. When he reached the microphone, the press section recognized him. A reporter in the second row whispered audibly, "Holy." 3 of the Democratic House members on the panel had been on the Foreign Affairs Committee in 2019. They recognized him too. None of them met his eyes. "My name is Nicholas Haros, Jr. I'm 58 years old. I'm a construction supervisor. I live in Wall Township, New Jersey. My father was Frank Haros. He worked in maintenance at the World Trade Center. He had been there for 26 years. He was 62 years old. He was 3 years from retiring when the plane hit the South Tower at 9:03 a.m. on September 11, 2001. Pause. My father called my mother at 9:07, 4 minutes after the plane hit. He told her he was on the 82nd floor and the smoke was bad, but they were going to use the stairs. He told her he loved her. He told her to tell me, I was 28 then, I'm 58 now, to tell me he was proud of me. The phone went dead at 9:14. The South Tower came down at 9:59. My father's body was identified by dental records in March of 2002. He held up the photograph, 8x10. A man in his early 60s at a wedding. The photograph was old enough that the colors had begun to fade. This was my wedding, June of 2000, 15 months before they took him. My father is in this photograph, standing next to my wife. My wife had asked him before the wedding if he would walk her down the aisle. Her own father had died when she was 7. He said yes. He cried that day. I have a video of him crying. He set the photograph on the witness table, photograph facing up. In 2019, Congresswoman, you stood in front of a banquet in California and you described what those 19 men did to my father as some people did something. I want you to understand what you said. You said that the 19 men who claimed my father's life with a passenger jet were some people. You said that the act of taking my father's co-workers, my mother's husband, my children's grandfather, and 2,976 other Americans was something. Some people did something. Pause, voice still steady. My father had a name, Congresswoman. The men who ended his life had names too. The act they committed had a name. It was not something. My father was not some people. He was Frank Haros. He worked in maintenance for 26 years. He cried at my wedding. He died on September 11th, 2001, on the 82nd floor of the South Tower, while his wife held the phone and listened to him say goodbye. He picked up the photograph again. He held it forward toward Omar. I came here today, Congresswoman, because I want the country to hear my father's name said out loud on a federal microphone in front of you, so that the next time you describe his death as something, you have to remember that one of the people who did something was an American who paid the mortgage on the house I grew up in by waxing the floors of the building you have never set foot in. His name was Frank Haros. He died at 9:59 a.m. on September 11th in the South Tower of New York. He set the photograph back on the witness table, photograph still facing up, still facing the cameras. He walked back to his seat. He did not look at Omar. The speaker did not speak immediately. He removed his reading glasses. He folded them. He placed them on the legal pad. He reached into his coat pocket. He pulled out a small leather-bound book. The book was small enough to fit in his hand. It was a pocket Bible. The cover was worn at the corners. He placed the Bible on the legal pad. Congresswoman, I had not planned to quote scripture in this hearing today. I have been criticized, fairly I think, by my colleagues in both parties, for sometimes leading with my faith when I should be leading with the law. So today I led with the law. The perjury in your divorce filing, the fraud in your tax returns, the $2.78 million in your campaign payments, the 4 words you said about September 11th. A pause. But Mr. Haros has just done something I cannot follow with the law alone, so I will follow it with this. He did not open the Bible, he had memorized the verse, Proverbs 1:2:2:2, a beat. The Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in those who tell the truth. He left the Bible on top of the legal pad. He looked at Omar. Congresswoman, I am not asking you today to find your faith. Your faith is your own. I am asking you to find Mr. Haros' father's name. Pause. Frank Haros. He was a man. He had a name. Say his name. The hearing room was silent. In the second row, Noah Minot had not lowered his head. He was looking at Omar. Comment Frank Haros if you just heard a Speaker of the House say the name of a man who died on September 11th and asked America's most controversial Congresswoman to say it back. Subscribe, because the next bomb is the one that should have ended her career 4 years ago, about money from her own state routed to the people who pulled triggers in Mogadishu, the people the global extremist network calls family. The speaker turned the legal pad to page 8. The handwriting on page 8 had been folded once and unfolded. Congresswoman, January 8, 2026, 2 months ago. The House Oversight Committee held a hearing titled, and I am reading from the official committee record, quote, Oversight of Fraud and Misuse of Federal Funds in Minnesota, Part 1, end quote. Quiet voice. The drawl was faint. The hearing examined a fraud network. The network was based in Minnesota. The network was, by the testimony of federal investigators, the largest pandemic-era fraud in the history of the United States. It was operated by individuals who came to Minnesota through the same refugee resettlement programs that brought you and your family to America in 1995. A beat. The amount of money stolen, Congresswoman, exceeds $250 million. Federal money designed to feed children during the COVID pandemic while American children went hungry. And the money, the federal investigators testified under oath before that committee in January, it was routed overseas, including to the militant faction that operates in Somalia. The militant group that claimed 224 lives in a single devastating truck incident in Mogadishu in October of 2017. The extremist organization that has taken the lives of 11 American citizens in attacks since 2010. The militant organization that the United States State Department has designated since 2008 as a foreign extremist group affiliated with the global terror network. Pause. Now, Congresswoman, from January 2019 to February 2023, for 4 years, you sat on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. You held a top-secret security clearance. You received classified briefings on foreign extremist organizations, including the Somali militant faction. The committee discussed Somalia in classified session more than 30 times during that period. During those 4 years, your home district, Minneapolis, was the center of the largest federal fraud network in the history of the United States, funded by COVID money designed to feed children. Routed, the federal investigators testified 2 months ago to a militant organization affiliated with the global terror network, operating against the American intelligence community, operating in the country your father served as a colonel before you came to America. Eyes find Omar. And you, Congresswoman, said nothing for 4 years. With a top-secret clearance, with more classified information about this militant faction than any other member of Congress, representing a Somali American district. You did not write a single op-ed. You did not introduce a single bill. You did not give a single floor speech about the largest fraud in American history operating out of your district, funding the extremist organization most likely to target Americans of Somali descent. Pause. Either you knew, Congresswoman, and you said nothing, or you didn't know, and you held a top-secret clearance for 4 years while it was happening in your own neighborhood, and the FBI failed to brief you. There is no third option, there rarely is. Omar's right hand drifted to her hijab. She adjusted it. The motion completed, this time she brought the hand back down. Speaker Johnson. The allegations regarding militant funding from Minnesota are unproven and have been used by Republicans to stigmatize the Somali American community for political purposes. Congresswoman, quiet. The allegations were testified to under oath by federal investigators 2 months ago before a bipartisan committee of the United States House of Representatives. The investigators were not Republicans, they were career FBI and Department of Justice. They have served under Democratic administrations and Republican administrations. They testified under oath that the money went where I said it went. The question is not whether the testimony exists, it does. The question is what you, Congresswoman, sitting on foreign affairs with top-secret clearance, representing the district where it happened, what you did with what you knew when you knew it. The country is asking that question today. Mr. Plaz, Chairman, with your permission, I would like to invite 2 more observers to address the committee. Granted. In the audience, 2 people stood up. The first was an older man, 67, maybe 68, white beard, dark suit. He walked to the witness microphone with the bearing of a man who had walked in his life much farther than from the audience to a microphone. My name is Mohammed Farah. I am 67 years old. I came to the United States from Somalia in 1993. I am a Sufi Muslim. I run a small grocery store on Lake Street in Minneapolis. I voted for Representative Ocasio-Cortez's squad in 2018 because I believed they would represent the Somali community honestly. Pause. My grandson, Youssef, was taken by the militant faction on October 14, 2017. He was 8 years old. He was at the Leo Beach restaurant in Mogadishu with his mother. The truck incident claimed 224 lives that day. Youssef was the youngest victim identified by name. His mother survived because she had stepped outside to call her sister. He held up a photograph, a small boy, a red t-shirt, a soccer ball. The photograph was newer than Frank Haros's, the colors had not yet faded. Congresswoman, I read the Mace hearing transcript in January. I read the testimony about the money from my city, from my community, going to the people who took my grandson. I have spent 8 years asking my representatives in Minnesota, and you, Congresswoman, are my representative. What is being done about this? I have never received a response from you or from your office, not a phone call, not a letter, not an email. Pause. I am not here, Congresswoman, to ask you to apologize for the money. I am here to ask you why, in 8 years, you could not pick up a telephone. He sat down. He carried the photograph back to his seat with him. The second person was a woman, early 50s, brown hair, black blazer. She walked to the witness microphone with her hands clasped in front of her. My name is Sarah Goldstein. I am 51 years old. I am a registered Democrat. I voted for Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris. I live in Yorktown Heights, New York. The cameras caught it. The press section caught it. Yorktown Heights, the same Westchester County town where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had grown up. Different mother, same town. My daughter, Sarah Jr., we call her Sarah, was a junior at Columbia University in April of 2024. She is Jewish. She had a mezuzah on her dorm room door. On the night of April 25, 2024, you visited the Columbia campus, Congresswoman. You walked through the encampment. You stopped to speak. The video was posted to your official Instagram account. In that video, you referred to Jewish students who were not part of the encampment as, quote, pro-atrocity, end quote. Pause. My daughter was not part of the encampment, Congresswoman. She was studying for her finals. The next morning, the door to her dorm room had been spray-painted with the word atrocity supporter. Underneath the word was a Star of David with a slash through it. My daughter took her mezuzah down that morning. She withdrew from Columbia 3 days later. She has not returned. I do not blame you, Congresswoman, for what was painted on my daughter's door. I blame you for the word that made it possible, pro-atrocity, about a Jewish student who was studying for her finals in her own dorm room on a campus that has not been safe for her since. She sat down. This was the moment Ilhan Omar's hijab adjustment began. Her right hand drifted upward toward her temple. The fingers reached the fabric. The motion began. The motion was small. The motion was something she had done 200 times in her career on cable news. It was a nervous tick. It was a familiar comfort. The motion stopped. The hand stayed at her temple. The fingers were holding the fabric. The hand did not complete the adjustment. It did not return to the table. It stayed. 1 second. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The hijab was now slightly askew, off-center by perhaps a centimeter. The C-SPAN camera zoomed in. 12 million American screens watched a piece of dark fabric remain slightly off-center on the head of a sitting United States Congresswoman who, until 90 seconds ago, had been adjusting it every 2 minutes for 43 minutes. She did not fix it. The hand drifted down. The hijab remained askew. In the second row, Noah Minette was looking at her. Beth Minette was looking at her. Mohammed Farah was looking at the floor. Nicholas Haros Jr. was looking at his father's photograph on the witness table. Sarah Goldstein was looking at Omar. 9 seconds passed. When the speaker spoke, the voice was lower than it had been all morning. Congresswoman, I want the 4 million Americans watching this hearing to understand exactly what has happened in this room over the past 43 minutes. Pause. You called Mr. Haros' father, Frank Haros, who worked maintenance at the World Trade Center for 26 years, some people who did something. You sat on the Foreign Affairs Committee for 4 years, while Mr. Farah's grandson, Yusuf, age 8, was taken by the extremist organization that received money routed from your own district. You called Mrs. Goldstein's daughter, a junior at Columbia who was studying for her finals, pro-atrocity, and the next morning her dorm room door was spray-painted with the word that made it possible. And you did all of this, Congresswoman, while sitting in the chamber whose entire purpose is to represent the people whose names you have refused to learn. You did not betray the working class of Minneapolis, Congresswoman. You did not betray the Somali community. You did not betray the Jewish community. You did not betray the families of September 11th. You betrayed the truth about your brother, about your boyfriend, about the money, about the 4 words, about the 4 years, and the country today. The country today is allowed to remember the difference. The hearing room was silent. Comment 4 years if you have just heard the most surgical takedown of an entire political career delivered in plain English on live television. Share this with the working-class American in your life, the actual one, not the imagined one in a campaign ad. The speaker turned the legal pad over. Page 9 was the last page. It had only 1 word on it, written in the same pencil, larger than the other words, underlined twice. The word was Frank. The speaker did not produce another page. He stacked his reading glasses on top of the legal pad. He stacked the small leather Bible on top of the reading glasses. He folded his hands. Congresswoman, One question about one name. Yes or no. The hearing room did not move. Frank Haros, maintenance, 82nd floor, South Tower, died 9:59 a.m. September 11th, 2001. A pause. Was Frank Haros some people, yes or no? The first second. Omar's left hand drifted to her water bottle. It stopped halfway. It returned to the table. The second. The third. She looked at her communications director in the wings. Imani Hassan was no longer looking at her. Imani Hassan was looking at her own hands. The fourth second. The fifth. She looked at the witness table. Frank Haros' photograph was still on it, photograph facing up. The man in the photograph was smiling. He was wearing the suit he had worn to his son's wedding. The sixth second. The seventh. She looked at the back of the room. Mohammed Farah was looking at the floor. The eighth second. She looked at the second row. Beth Minette was looking at her. Noah Minette was looking at her. The ninth second. She looked down at her own hands. The 10th. The 11th. The 12th. She said, "The framing of this question is fundamentally yes or no, Congresswoman." The 13th second. The 14th. Omar said nothing. The speaker nodded once. He did not stand. He did not raise his voice. He did not pick up the Bible. He did not pick up the legal pad. He did not gather any of it. Mr. Chairman, I yield the remainder of my time to Mr. Haros, Mr. Farah, and Mrs. Goldstein. They have been waiting for an answer to this question for a lot longer than 14 seconds. The chairman gave a 30-minute recess. Omar stood. She gathered her papers. She did not gather them quickly. She stacked them once. She set them down. She stacked them again. She did not look at Beth Minette. She did not look at Noah Minette. She did not look at Nicholas Haros Jr. She did not look at his father's photograph on the witness table. She walked toward the side door. She walked past Mohammed Farah's row without turning her head. Mohammed Farah did not turn his head either. She walked past Sarah Goldstein. Sarah Goldstein was looking at her own hands now. At the door she turned. The cameras turned with her. The speaker was still seated at the lower bench. The yellow legal pad was on the bench. The reading glasses were on the legal pad. The small leather Bible was on the reading glasses. He was not looking at her, he was looking at Frank Haros' photograph on the witness table. Congresswoman. She paused at the door. My door is open any time. Bring Mr. Haros' father's name. Say it out loud. We'll talk. She did not respond. She walked out. The door closed behind her with the kind of sound that a heavy door makes when nobody on either side wants to slam it, but nobody wants to soften it either. The aftermath came fast. It came in 3 waves. By 1:13 a.m. Eastern, 3 hashtags occupied the top 3 trending positions on every American platform. Number Frank Haros at number 1, number 1 year-old at number 2, number 4 years at number 3. The clip of Nicholas Haros Jr. holding his father's photograph on the witness table passed 47 million views before sundown. The September 11 Memorial Museum quietly added Frank Haros's photograph to its rotating digital display by sundown at the request of his son made by phone from the Capitol parking lot at 1:47 a.m. Beth Minette, asked for comment by the New York Post, gave a single sentence, "My son is 17, he is allowed to grow up now." Her son Noah, when asked by a reporter outside the Capitol whether he had a comment, said, "I just wanted her to see me." Ilhan Omar's communications director released a statement at 1:14 p.m. 12 sentences. Used Islamophobic 4 times, manufactured 3 times, right-wing distortion twice, did not mention Frank Haros, did not mention Youssef Farah, did not mention Sarah Goldstein's daughter, did not mention the photograph in London. The Anti-Defamation League issued a statement reading in full today, Mrs. Goldstein said, "What we have said for 7 years, we hope today the country listened." The Council on American-Islamic Relations, the organization at whose banquet Omar had said the 4 words in March 2019, declined to comment. The Auschwitz Memorial Museum did not respond. It had in 2019 already exhausted its statements about Omar. The Federal Election Commission, asked whether it intended to revisit the Tim Minette payments, gave the answer it had given for 6 years: the matter is closed. The Office of Congressional Ethics asked whether it intended to revisit the perjury allegation in the Minnesota divorce filing, gave a different answer, no comment. By sundown, 3 other things had happened. In Wall Township, New Jersey, Nicholas Haros Jr. drove home in his pickup truck. The drive took 3 hours and 17 minutes. He stopped twice. He arrived at his house at 5:43 p.m. His wife was on the porch. She had been watching the hearing. She did not get up when he pulled into the driveway. She just opened the screen door for him. He carried his father's photograph inside. The photograph had been on his nightstand for 24 years. He put it back in its place. Above the mantelpiece in the living room was a clipping from the New York Post dated April 12, 2019. The headline read, Representative Ilhan Omar 9/11 was, "Some people did something." Underneath in smaller letters, the caption read, "Here's your something," and listed the names of the dead. Nicholas Haros Jr. took the clipping down at 5:48 p.m. He had been waiting 6 years to take it down. He folded it once. He put it in his desk drawer. He did not throw it away. In Minneapolis, Mohammed Farah opened his grocery store on Lake Street the next morning at 6:00 a.m., as he had done every morning for 16 years. There was a line of people outside. The line was longer than usual. Some of the people were Somali, some were not. They were not buying groceries. They were standing in line to shake his hand. The line stayed long until 1:00 a.m. Mohammed Farah did not sell more groceries that morning than usual. He sold less, but he did not close the store. He greeted every person in the line. He did not mention his grandson by name to any of them. He did not have to. In Yorktown Heights, New York, Sarah Goldstein drove home that evening. Her daughter called from her new school in Florida at 8:09 p.m. They talked for 2 hours and 4 minutes. Her daughter cried for the first 45 minutes. Sarah Goldstein did not cry, she listened. At one point her daughter said, "Mom, you said my name on TV." Sarah Goldstein said, "Yes, I did." Her daughter said, "I want to come home." Sarah Goldstein said, "I know, come home." Ilhan Omar walked out of the Capitol at 12:14 p.m. She did not have a staffer with her. She did not have her communications director with her. The cameras followed her down the marble steps. She did not respond to any questions. A black SUV was waiting at the curb on First Street. She got into the back seat. The driver, a contractor she had used for 3 years, did not know where to take her. She did not tell him. The SUV drove around the Capitol for 20 minutes. The driver finally asked, "Congresswoman, where would you like to go?" She did not answer. In a Rayburn hearing room on a Wednesday morning in late February, the country had remembered 3 names: Frank Haros, Yusef Farah, Beth Minette's 11-year-old son, who is 17 now. The congresswoman from Minneapolis had not said any of them. If you made it this far, you just heard the morning America's most controversial congresswoman was asked to say the name of one man, Frank Haros, who waxed the floors of the South Tower for 26 years, who called his wife at 9:07 a.m. on September 11, 2001, to tell her he loved her, whose body was identified by dental records in March of 2002, whose son today asked Ilhan Omar to say his name out loud on a federal microphone in front of 4 million Americans. She did not say it. Smash that like button if you believe a name still beats a press release. Subscribe to this channel because there is more where this came from. Comment Frank Haros if you think the words "say his name" just became the most devastating 3 words in American political television. Share this with the working-class American in your life, the actual one, not the imagined one in a campaign ad. God bless our firefighters who ran into the South Tower while everyone else was running out. God bless Frank Haros who waxed the floors. God bless Yusef Farah who was 8 years old and wanted to play soccer. God bless Sarah Goldstein's daughter who took her mezuzah down in the morning and withdrew from Columbia 3 days later. God bless Beth Minette's son who is 17 now and who is allowed to grow up. And God bless every American who has been waiting 6 years to hear someone on a federal microphone ask Ilhan Omar to say a name out loud. Today, in a Rayburn hearing room, somebody finally asked. Tomorrow, the country gets to remember whether she answered. If political leaders can ignore the grieving families of national tragedies without facing any consequences, are we truly represented by our government, or are we simply funding a system that protects the elite at our expense?